Hey, listen, the talent that was just on this stage just a second ago was absolutely phenomenal. And in one of those last songs, I leaned over to Susie and I said, man, what a great day to have all of you back. Many of you have come back. This is your first Sunday back. And I said, when Ron was leading and looking out and seeing his potential new family, just overwhelmed me. And we couldn't have orchestrated it, with our kids being back and our Sunday school back and y'all coming back on this particular Sunday. Couldn't have orchestrated it any better. It wasn't really us. So thank you for being here today and participating in worship. Really appreciate that. We're continuing a conversation we're having about the kingdom. Going through the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, 6, and 7 at the same time. And Elliot started 2 weeks ago in a new mini-series within this overarching series of the kingdom. He started this series off, and this mini-series is about kingdom cautions, warnings that Jesus gives in the Sermon on the Mount. The first one had to do with forgiveness, that our forgiveness is conditioned on us forgiving others. Last week he talked about where our treasure is, there our heart is also, so we have to be very careful about what we're chasing in life. And today we're talking about the fact that we can't serve two masters. In fact, that's exactly what Jesus said in Matthew 6:24. He said, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Back in 1980, a man named Kevin Hillier, living in Australia, living in a trailer, got a metal detector. Anybody here have a metal detector? Okay, few. Okay, we know how much fun that is. I have one too. It's a lot of fun going on the beach and scouring for treasures. Well, he took his metal detector and started thinking, hey, the best place to start's in the backyard. So he went out in the backyard and the metal detector just went ballistic. He's like, man, this thing's not really working right. And it just kept going ballistic. And so he really debated whether he was going to get the shovel and start digging. But as every new metal detector owner, you start digging right away. So he started digging, went down a foot deep, and pulled out a 61-pound nugget of pure gold. Pure gold, 61 pounds. He ended up selling it about a year later, moved out of the trailer, for over $1 million to a casino in Las Vegas called the Golden Nugget. Now, there have been other bigger, larger size rocks of pure gold that have been found, but they've been melted down, like the Matrix. The Matrix was 187 pounds in today's day and age in terms of the price of gold, as of Tuesday this week anyway. $5.2 million was what that was worth. There was the Welcome Stranger, 148 pounds, 4.1 million. And then the Golden Eagle, 71 pounds, just over 2 million. So all these big rocks, they were given special names. And this particular rock was also given a special name because it has kind of like what it looks like an index finger and a middle finger pointed upwards. And so I have a picture for you here. And it's called the Hand of Faith is what they named this gold rock. That's kind of interesting. The Hand of Faith. You cannot serve two masters, God and money. You see, Jesus warns us about serving two masters. And it doesn't matter what the masters are. I mean, you can substitute anything in there for the word money. And opposed to God, it's not worthy of your heart. It's not worthy of your attitudes and your actions as a God. There's one true God. Now, the nation of Israel, we look back and we say, man, that was really a dumb thing for them to do, dumb things that they said. And we think, man, how could they be so silly? And we sometimes have a difficult time drawing the comparison. Well, the Israelites had just been led out of Egypt. They had been wandering in the wilderness. And they came to Mount Sinai where God decided to come down and speak to them and give them the law. And one of the things that he said was, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. Now, you can read all about this in Exodus 19 and 20, but what happens when God came and he spoke to the people were like, man, this is freaking me out. I don't know that I want God talking to me. Now, all of us here today, I would think that most of us, whether you're watching online or here in this room, most of us would say, I would love to hear the audible voice of God. But the Israelites were like, no, thank you. And so they said, Moses, you be our representative. You talk to God, let God talk to you, and then you talk to us. And so that's what happened. And so Moses went up on Mount Sinai and received the law. He was gone for 40 days. Talk about a survivor experience. That's a long time. And towards the end of those 40 days, the people were starting to get a little insecure. And so they went to Aaron, Moses' brother, who had been the spokesperson for Moses before Pharaoh. And they went to Aaron. They said, one of the dumb things, here it is, make us gods who will go before us. How dumb is that? That is really dumb. Make us gods who will go before us. As if we could make anything after God already just said what he said, as if we could make anything that would be a God, first of all, or that would go before us. And Aaron said, okay. Now, they had just left Egypt, where our God, the one true God, just set Egypt really on its last legs, because he had just sent 10 plagues and devastated the country of Egypt. He had just led them through the Red Sea and just allowed those waves to overcome Pharaoh's army. In the wilderness, they had quail and manna striking the rock, speaking to the rock, allowing water to come forth. God had shown all kinds of miracles. And here, the people of Israel are saying, Aaron, make us gods who will go before us. Aaron says yes. They melt some gold, and poof, out pops the golden calf. Wow. Like the golden calf is going to lead them anywhere. Like a golden calf is going to give them wisdom or guidance or love or mercy or compassion or forgiveness. You start to see how ridiculous that is. Okay, totally ridiculous. Why would they do something like that? Why would they want to worship something so worthless? And I know that gold had some value. They plundered Egypt and took a lot of their gold with them, but they're in the middle of the desert. They're in the middle of the desert. Gold is not very valuable in the middle of the desert. Why would they, and even if it was of great value, like one of those big rocks, if you found one of those, you can borrow my metal detector, we'll just split the proceeds. But the fact of the matter is, even if it was millions of dollars, why would they worship something as worthless compared to God? I think when you get to the root of that is insecurity. That's why they did it. Insecurity. Moses was gone. God wasn't talking to them anymore. They made sure of that. And they'd never really seen God before, but they could touch, they could see this golden calf. That was their new real. It was real to them. And that is Satan's trap. And I believe that you and I can identify with that, because ours doesn't look like a golden calf, but it may be our house, because we work 24/7, 365 days a week, because we bought too big of a house, we've got too much of a mortgage. Or we work for our car, or we work for these extravagant vacations that go on the credit cards, and then we spend 3 years trying to pay off 5 years ago vacation. That becomes our God. That's what's real to us. How do you know if you're hoarding that stuff, or whether you have a good sense of stewardship for that stuff? There was a man and wife who were having marital troubles. She was a believer. He was not a believer, the husband. And so the wife called in the pastor. Man, don't you just love those calls? You might not be able to identify. There's a few people here that can identify with that. Getting called in for one of those. Man, pastor walks in. The wife just starts. Leads the pastor to the closet where the husband has this big box. And the pastor's like, okay, I wonder what's in that box. She opens it up, and it's just filled with lottery tickets. They're all scratched off. The numbers, he didn't win anything. And his hope was in this box, and he wouldn't throw them out because they represented this hope of riches, this hope of what was real. It represented what it could have been, and it was destroying their marriage. How do you know if you're hoarding it to the point, or just you value a few things? How do you know then if you have too much money in the bank and you need to release some of it for God's purposes? You see, we have a word, that hoarding word is interesting. When we hold on to things that have no value, we can collect magazines and newspapers and paper bags and plastic bags and envelopes and this and that and the other. And our house just becomes filled to where we have to have storage units, and our storage units have to have storage units. And we have all this just junk. We just have all this junk. And it's worthless. It's of no eternal value whatsoever. So how do we know when we've crossed that line? You see, one person said the problem is not people having money, it's when money has them, has the person. You see, it's when their possessions, when our possessions possess us. That's when we've crossed the line. Wonderful house, beautiful car, wonderful vacation. Those things are not wrong. You know what? I want all God's people to enjoy those things. If that's a part of God's purpose and plan for your life, it's not wrong. But those things have a tendency and can become little gods. They don't look like golden calves, but they attract our attention and our heart. You see, the root cause for why people want to serve both gods, the real God, the one who's all-powerful, almighty, omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, the real God, and the fake God of money, is worry. And we talked about that several weeks ago in a message. We said this is a mini-series that only has one sermon in it, because what shouldn't be present in the kingdom, in the Sermon on the Mount, there was one thing, and that was worry. It shouldn't be present. And yet that can be the signpost, worry, that possessions have become our God, like little gods to us. Jesus said this in John 16:33. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. You see, it doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. You could have $1 million in the bank. Now, Susie and I are not speaking from personal experience when I say you can have $1 million in the bank and it will not bring you peace. However, I've known millionaires and I've talked to them and it did not bring them peace. So if we ever have the opportunity to get to $1 million, I'm sure that it's not going to bring us peace, because peace is not found in any amount of money. Peace is found in the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ. That's where peace is found. And he said, you know what? You're going to have trouble. You, all of us, we're going to have trouble. Take a look at 2020. We all had trouble. There's not a single person in the whole entire world that didn't have trouble in 2020. You're going to have trouble. You're going to have circumstances, whether it's in your control because you did it, your decisions, or someone else made the decision for you. We've got trouble in this life. But Jesus says, take heart. Why? Because he's overcome your street? No. Because he's overcome your block? No. Because he's overcome your neighborhood? No. Because he's overcome your city, your county, your state, your country? No, no, no. That's not why you take heart. You take heart because Jesus overcame the entire world. That's why you can take heart. So why would you worship a golden calf? Why would you let your car, your house, your possessions, your $1 million in the bank, your retirement funds, why would you let anything destroy who overcame the world and your affection and your love for him? There's nothing. Worry can actually be the reason that we seek the power of money and possessions, because we think that if we get this magic number, we won't have to worry. But worry robs us of faith. And the disease of worry will never, ever be healed by any amount of money that you have in the bank. Over and over and over and over and over again, 365 times, at least in the Bible, Jesus says, and Moses says, and Paul and John and other people have said throughout Genesis to Revelation, do not be afraid, do not be anxious, do not fear. 365 times, at least. Once for every day. Why is that? It's because we have a tendency to worry. We have a tendency to be anxious. We have a tendency to be afraid. We have a tendency to allow those things to be overcome through our faith. Instead, we should herald our faith and allow our faith to rise up to the top of the mountain and say, you know what? I'm not going to be afraid. On the drive in this morning, it was dark. It was like 5:15. And all of a sudden, I I was on the street, and I don't know why I was thinking about it. I was thinking about our soldiers. And I was thinking about, most of our soldiers don't get in foxholes anymore, but I was thinking about the soldiers in foxholes. Back in World War I, World War II, other wars, where they just dig a trench, and they're just in there. And I thought about their prayer life. And isn't that a weird thing? At 5:15 in the morning, there's nobody on the road. Why would that hit me? I don't know why it hit me, but I was overwhelmed with the sense of, they talk about, there's everyone in a foxhole is a believer, because everyone's crying out to God. And I wonder what that was like, what that would be like to be that scared, to not know whether you would come home, to not know whether you would see your family, whether you would die on the battlefield. It's not funny, but we watch movies, war movies sometimes, and guys are jumping over, the vehicles that land from sea, land on the land. And I tell Susie, I'd be the one. As soon as I jump out of there, that's where I would get it. I probably wouldn't even make it onto the sand. That's my luck, it's not funny, but that's my luck. And I thought about those men and women who have died. The front of that is getting ready to come down, and bullets are ricocheting and flying. What your prayer life would be like. You see, money doesn't matter right then. Your square footage of your house doesn't matter right then. What kind of car you drive doesn't matter right then. What matters is you better be ready to meet your Maker. And trust me when I tell you, it's not a golden calf. So let me tell you this final story as we get ready to close. Let me tell you about the first world's billionaire. By the age of 23, he became a millionaire. That's pretty cool. At the age of 50, he was a billionaire. At the age of 53, he was told he would not see his 54th birthday because he was sick. He couldn't smile. He wouldn't smile. He couldn't keep down anything but crackers and milk. He could buy anything in the world. He had billions of dollars. He could buy anything. But his God of money could not save him, could not provide a cure. He had a year to get his affairs in order. He was miserable. His God of money was letting him down. Then one morning he woke up and he remembered he had a dream, and he didn't remember the details specifically, except that it had something to do with the fact that he wasn't going to be able to take his successes and he wasn't going to be able to take his wealth into the next life. And it really hit him hard. And so he decided to call in his managers and his the attorneys and everybody, and to change the way he was going to do his life moving forward. He decided to set up a foundation and start giving money to missions and to projects. And his foundation was responsible for the cure of the discovery of penicillin and the cure for malaria and diphtheria and several other different diseases his foundation became part of. And slowly but surely over time, his body started to heal itself. He found scriptures like this, Matthew 6:33, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you." 1 Timothy 6:9 and 10. "Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs." That's exactly what he had done. Having all that money wasn't necessarily wrong, but he had made it his God. Well, he ended up embracing Christ. He ended up teaching Sunday school. And he ended up dying at the age of 98 because God started to heal his body when he started to release his faith God. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about John D. Rockefeller, who also said this: "I believe it is a religious duty to get all the money you can fairly and honestly, and to give away all you can." You see, until you and I have Jesus in our life, truly as the Lord of our life, we will never have the promise of true peace. It doesn't come from money. Money's a terrible master. It's great as a tool. It's great to be able to use it for kingdom purposes and to go on trips and to provide a nice vehicle for your kids and to do wonderful things. It's a great tool, but it's an awful, terrible master. And John D. Rockefeller found out about that. You see, God sent his one and only Son to the world. He gave his very best gift to us so that we could have peace. And it's through Christ that we have peace. It's through Christ that we have forgiveness of our sins. It's through Christ that we get a new heart. We become a new creation, a new creature because of what Jesus Christ has done for us. Let's pray.